Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to cut through the noise and pull out the core truths. Today we're getting into a blueprint that really aims to just smash one of the biggest dream killers in business. That belief you need a ton of cash or like years of planning before you can even start something real, something profitable. We're diving deep into what seems like a surprisingly simple, really fast process for execution. It's called the $1 Million Weekend, or MDW Blueprint. The sources we've looked at, they detail this clear path. It's about moving you from being stuck, from paralysis to actually making money, often in like no time at all.
Yeah, and what's really key to grasp about this material is that it's all about changing behavior. It prioritizes that and rapid experiments over some super complex strategy. So our mission today for you listening is to really break down this three-part framework they lay out: start IT, build IT, and grow IT. And this isn't, theoretical stuff you just read about. It's meant to be a manual for actually doing something. The whole system is built on this idea that you can, and probably should, validate your idea and start generating revenue really quickly. Often they say within just 48 hours, we're focusing on these small, sharp experiments, running them to get data, not just spending ages planning in a bubble.
Right. And the sources, they don't mess around. They go straight for the core problem, don't they? It's like if all the how-to info's out there, books, courses, YouTube, whatever, why do so many people, these sort of entrepreneurs, never actually, get started?
Exactly. And the sources pin it down to this really paralyzing mix of two fundamental fears. These have to be tackled head-on before you can really make any progress.
Okay, so before tactics, we need psychology.
Precisely. It's not about lacking market data, usually, or not having enough funding. It's these internal roadblocks, the fear of starting, and then, often even tougher, the fear of asking. So the whole MDW process, it's designed as this sequence of small actions that basically force you to face and hopefully conquer those two mental barriers right away.
Okay, let's dig into that first one then, the fear of starting. The sources describe it as like preparation paralysis. It's that voice in your head, right? That constant nagging that says starting a business is just too risky.
Mm-hmm. And that leads to endless cycles of, research, reading more books, planning, always feeling like you need just one more thing.
One more certificate or one more market analysis or, one more book before you're ready to launch.
It's this illusion of safety, isn't it? People kind of confuse doing research with actually making progress. But the sources argue the real risk is actually the opposite of what most people think.
Oh, how so?
Well, the real risk is spending your life building someone else's dream, maybe working a job you don't even like, and just never trying your own thing. You're never going to feel 100% ready. Perfection. It's just not achievable. So the answer, they say, is to embrace the small experiment. Because if a tiny experiment fails, what's the cost? It's low. But the learning, that's high.
Okay, that makes sense. And that leads right into this core philosophy they push, the N now W, not how mindset.
Mm-hmm.
This seems to be where the people who actually do things really diverge from the ones who just think about doing things?
Completely. They take action first, and then only after they get some real-world feedback, some data, do they figure out the specifics, the how. If you just analyze a strategy before you've even tried anything, the sources basically say that analysis is pure guesswork. It's worthless until it actually hits the real world.
And they stress speed here.
Oh, hugely. The author tells this simple story about being pitched by a new ad agency. The agency said, okay, we'll send you an email recap with all the passwords and access stuff we need. Standard procedure, right?
Yeah, sounds normal.
But the author stopped them, said, no, let's just do all of that right now. Took maybe 5 minutes, but doing it then right there saved probably 24 hours of just waiting around, inertia setting in, the inevitable follow-up emails.
Wow, just 5 minutes saved a whole day.
Exactly. And that 24 hours, that's a competitive edge in a market that moves fast. Speed isn't just about being efficient. It's about stopping that moment where fear can creep back in and stall you.
Okay, so to really nail down that action mindset, the sources bring in this challenge. It sounds almost too simple. The dollar challenge.
It does sound trivial, but the psychology behind it is pretty profound, actually. The challenge is dead simple. Ask someone you know, friend, family, coworker, whoever, for just $1, a $1 investment in your future business idea. They even give you a script. It's like, hey, I'm reading this book, $1 Million Weekend, and part of it is I need to get $1 from someone. Can you Venmo me $1 right now?
So you're not really fundraising with that dollar.
No, not at all. You're forcing that first tiny transactional moment. That single dollar, however small it seems, it's the spark. The second you get that dollar, you've done it. You've articulated an idea, you've asked for money, and you've closed a micro sale. You've just validated the absolute fundamental loop of business.
Yeah.
Start, ask, iterate. That little bit of psychological momentum, it's huge.
Okay, I can see how that tiny action could feel pretty big.
And once you've broken that initial barrier, you need something to aim for. An anchor, right?
Right.
But one that feels achievable and kind of urgent. Most people aim for this vague, massive goal of millions, and it just paralyzes them. So the solution proposed is the freedom number.
The freedom number. Okay, what's that?
It's basically your bare minimum monthly expenses, the amount you need to cover your basic living costs, maybe a bit for travel or savings, so that you don't have to work a job you hate. It's not the buy a yacht number, it's the I can breathe and choose number. The author's number for years was apparently around $3,000 a month. Housing, food, essentials.
Oh, okay. So it makes it tangible.
Exactly. The power of it is, well, threefold, really. First, it feels attainable, $3,000, $4,000 a month, whatever it is for you. It's manageable. You can actually reverse engineer a business model to hit that. Second, it's concrete, a sharp target, not some fuzzy dream. And third, it creates urgency. You can immediately see how close or far you are if you can hit that number. Your whole life's trajectory can shift. The fear of failure starts to shrink because you're already achieving a meaningful kind of freedom.
Right, got it. So we started, we have a target. Now we hit that second big hurdle the sources mentioned. The fear of asking. This is the big one for a lot of people, isn't it? Fear of rejection, looking stupid, hearing no.
Oh, absolutely. It's often way more ingrained than the fear of starting. And the sources introduce a really transformative idea here. It's the concept of rejection goals. There's this powerful story about the author's father, who is an immigrant selling copiers. His advice was totally upside down. He said, love rejections, collect them like treasure, set rejection goals.
Set goals for getting rejected.
Yeah, he said, I shoot for 100 rejections each week because if you work that hard to get so many no's, you will find a few yeses in there too.
Wow, that completely reframes the whole sales dynamic. Rejection isn't failure anymore, it's just data collection.
Yeah.
Part of the process.
Precisely. You're literally tracking your persistence. The source material really hammers this home. The upside of asking is basically unlimited. It could be a huge sale, a partnership, whatever. And the downside, it's minimal. Just someone saying no. What's the worst that can happen, really? You see this kind of grit in the story of Sarah Blakely, the Spanx founder. She spent 7 years selling fax machines door to door, facing constant rejection, then trying to get Spanx made, rejected by almost every factory. But she kept asking. The story goes she was just 11 no's away from her first $1 million when she finally got a yes.
That persistence.
Yeah.
That's what they call the ask muscle, right? And they give some tips for building it up.
Yeah, 3 pro tips. First is just persistence. Knowing that most no's aren't no forever. They're often just not right now. Timing, readiness.
Okay, what's the second?
Follow up. This is huge. Studies apparently show that if you ask again, you're twice as likely to get a yes. Most people just give up after the first try.
That's interesting. Twice as likely. And the third tip?
It's a mindset shift. Selling is helping. If you genuinely believe your product or service offers real value, then it's almost like you have a moral duty to offer it to people, to help them solve their problem.
Okay, so persistence, follow-up, and belief in your value. But before we jump into the $1 Million Weekend tactics themselves, there's one more bit of, let's call it field training for building courage. The coffee challenge.
Ah, yes, the coffee challenge. This is deliberate discomfort training. It's brilliant in its simplicity.
So what is it exactly?
You go to any coffee shop, buy something simple, a coffee, a pastry, whatever, and then you ask for 10% off.
Just ask for a discount. On a $4 coffee, that sounds incredibly awkward.
Totally. That's the entire point. The goal is not to save 40 cents. The goal is to feel that discomfort, that awkwardness of asking for something unusual and realize the actual consequences are basically zero. Maybe you get a weird look, maybe an eye roll, maybe they even say yes. But nothing terrible happens. You're building that chutzpah, that resilience, by intentionally putting yourself in a slightly uncomfortable spot.
But yeah, people listening might be thinking, I'd feel so embarrassed, or I don't want to annoy the barista. How do you get past that?
They know it's awkward, so they give you a little safety net script. It's something like, hi, could I possibly get 10% off this? Pause for effect. I'm actually doing this business course, and believe it or not, this is one of the assignments.
So you give them a reason.
Exactly. It explains your slightly odd behavior, takes the pressure off you personally, and often the barista is just curious, or even finds it funny. Might even lead to a conversation. Once you do that tiny, awkward thing, you kind of reset your internal gauge. You realize, okay, that wasn't so bad. I can handle a little weirdness. You prove to yourself you're capable of more than your fear was telling you.
Okay, so we've worked on smashing those mental barriers. Now we get into the nuts and bolts, the tactical launch. Step one seems to be finding those million-dollar ideas. And the MDW approach starts by throwing out what they call the failure of founder first.
Yes, this is such a common trap. Spending months, maybe years, completely obsessed with your brilliant idea without ever seriously asking if actual customers will pay for it. The classic example they use is Beat Arcade. The founder apparently spent $100,000 building this fantasy sports betting site he thought was amazing. Launched it. Crickets. Total flop. Because it was entirely founder first, he hadn't validated any real demand.
Ouch. $100K is a painful lesson.
But the failure led directly to the key insight. The founders realized their own biggest headache was the payment provider they were using, OfferPal, which was taking a massive 50% cut of their revenue.
50%, wow.
Yeah, crazy high. So they thought, hang on, if this is hurting us this badly, it must be hurting other game developers too. They pivoted fast, started building a solution for that specific painful problem.
So they switched from their idea to solving their own problem, assuming others had it too.
Exactly. And that became Gambit, a payment system designed to slash those commissions. They were working backward from a real, validated, painful problem that they experienced. And Gambit, it reportedly did over $15 million in revenue in its first year alone. The lesson is crystal clear. Customers pay for solutions to their existing pain points, not necessarily for your cool idea.
So work backward from the customer. You need to figure out the 3 W's, right? Who you're selling to, what problem you solve for them, and where are they right now?
Precisely. There's another great little anecdote about a dog-walking app idea. Most people's first instinct: hire developers, build the app.
Right.
The MDW approach. Call 3 people you know who have dogs right now. Ask them if they'll pay you today to walk their dog. In the story, the person did this and immediately found out the real need wasn't dog walking, it was dog sitting. People were desperate for reliable sitters, so she got a deposit for dog sitting services on the spot before writing a single line of code or designing an app screen. That's real validation done in hours, not months.
Okay, so talk to potential customers immediately, but where do you find these first people? The sources mention your zone of influence.
Yeah, start there. It's the groups you're already part of, communities you understand, your neighbors, colleagues from work, maybe people you play golf with, members of a hobby group, your local church or community organization. You already have some level of access and hopefully trust within these groups.
And the challenge is specific here, isn't it?
Yes. List your top 3 groups. Who are the people you'd actually be excited to help? That excitement matters. But let's throw a wrench in here. What if your zone of influence is just too nice? You know, your friends and family just tell you everything's great.
Yeah, that's a lovely idea, dear kind of feedback. Useless.
Totally useless. And the sources kind of address this indirectly by hammering on the need to ask for money. Polite interest doesn't pay the bills, right? The moment you ask for cash, even a small amount, the dynamic changes. People suddenly get critical. They evaluate it properly because it involves their wallet. So yes, use your zone of influence because it's fast access, but you must ask for the sale to get real feedback.
Got it. Ask for the cash. So how do we actually generate the ideas in the first place?
Yeah.
Become a problem seeker.
Exactly. Your own frustrations. They're potential gold mines. The author apparently built AppSumo because he was frustrated trying to find good deals on software. He built Sumo because his team needed better tools for growing their email list.
And the Mud Rider example, too. Shane Heath had crippling anxiety from coffee.
Right, so he created a chai-based alternative to solve his own acute problem. And that solution now fuels a company doing reportedly over $60 million a year. The sources literally tell you, list your recent minor annoyances. Was researching your last car purchase a nightmare? Can you never find a reliable house cleaner? These are all jumping off points for potential businesses.
Beyond your own problems, where else can you look?
Look where money is already moving. Bestsellers are a huge clue. iPhones are massive. Okay, what about accessories, repair services, training? Niche video game takes off. Tutorials, merchandise, community platforms. You're essentially finding an existing wave of demand and figuring out how to ride it. You can also literally look at marketplaces. Check the gigs section on Craigslist. Look at completed listings on eBay. See what specific transactional services people are actually paying for right now.
Okay, and the last suggestion was search queries.
Yeah, use tools like Google Trends or even just Google itself, maybe something like Answer the Public. Look for what they call painkiller questions, things people are desperately searching for answers to. The example given is, how do I train my cat to use a toilet?
Yeah.
Someone searching that isn't just casually curious. They have a real, probably annoying, unsolved problem. Hashtag the 1-minute business model.
Okay, so let's say you've got a few ideas bubbling up from these methods. Now you need to quickly check if they actually have legs, if there's real potential there. That brings us to the 1-minute business model. This seems to be about figuring out if you're, like, surfing a massive wave or just splashing in a puddle.
That's a great way to put it. The market size of the wave is arguably the single most important factor. Is this a big enough opportunity? Look at Robert Samuel, the guy who founded Same-O-Line Dudes, the professional line-sitting service. Makes reportedly $80K a year just standing in lines for people.
Seriously, just standing in line.
Yeah, but he validated massive concentrated demand around specific high-hype events, new iPhone launches, sample sales, Broadway tickets. He proved the demand existed using Craigslist ads first. It's not a super complex idea, but it's riding a huge wave of specific demand.
Okay, so step 1 of this 1-minute model is market research, but the quick and dirty kind.
Exactly. No need for expensive reports at this stage. First, Google Trends. Is the interest in this topic dying, flat, or growing? You absolutely must rule out dying markets from the get-go.
Makes sense? Then what?
Then use something like the Facebook ads platform. You don't even have to run ads, just use their audience tool to get a rough estimate of how many people are interested in this topic. Let's take their beard oil example. Google Trends interest is okay, maybe flat or slightly growing. Facebook ads audience tool suggests maybe 2.5 million interested people in a target market. Okay, if your beard oil costs $50. Multiply that out. That's potentially a $125 million market value. That's a YES, big enough wave.
And the counterexample.
A monthly subscription box for Vietnamese pho broth. Sounds niche, maybe cool. But Google Trends shows low interest, low growth. Facebook shows a tiny audience. That's a NO. The market's just too small. You need scale potential.
Right. Step 2 is profit calculation. Simple enough. Revenue minus cost equals profit.
Simple, but crucial. You have to calculate how many units you'd actually need to sell to hit whatever your initial goal is. Maybe it's your freedom number, maybe it's $1,000 in a weekend, maybe it's $1 million a year eventually. This is where the author's own sumo jerky challenge story comes in. His initial plan was flawed. He was selling $20 bags of jerky, but only making $5 profit per bag.
Okay.
His goal for the 24-hour challenge was $1,000. Do the math. He needed to make 200 individual sales in 24 hours. That's incredibly hard for a brand new thing. The model immediately showed the pricing or profit structure was off.
So the calculation forced a rethink, which leads to step 3, pivot and evolve using these revenue dials.
Exactly. He didn't ditch the jerky idea entirely. He changed the model. He used the dials. Instead of tweaking the product itself, he changed the customer type and the average order value.
How?
Instead of selling single $20 bags to random people, he pivoted to selling 6-month jerky subscriptions directly to offices, businesses spending company money. Suddenly, his profit per sale jumped to maybe $30 or more. Now, to hit that same $1,000 goal, he only needed around 33 sales, not 200. Much more achievable. That's the power of tweaking the model.
Okay, and the sources list 6 of these revenue dials you can adjust.
Yeah, they lay them out clearly. You've got average order value, get each customer to spend more per purchase. Frequency, get them to buy more often. Price point, just charge more if the value is there. Then there's customer type, target wealthier customers or businesses. Product line, add upsells or related products. And finally, add-on services like support, installation, training.
That's a lot of options. For someone just starting, how do you decide which dial to even try turning first? Is there a hierarchy?
Good question. The sources kind of imply you often start with the ones you can control internally first. So average order value and price point are usually easiest to test initially. You don't need new marketing for those. Changing frequency or customer type often means finding new channels or strategies. The sumo jerky example really highlights increasing the average order value and changing the customer type. Generally, it seems easier to get one customer to spend, say, $100 than it is to find 5 separate customers who each spend $20. Think about Sam Parr's The Hustle newsletter. They pivoted away from doing lots of smaller, resource-intensive live events to focusing solely on the highly scalable newsletter, a major shift in frequency and product line focus that ultimately led to their acquisition by HubSpot. Hashtag the 48-hour money challenge validation.
Yeah, idea found, model checked. Now the real crucible, the golden rule of validation, the 48-hour money challenge.
This is it, the non-negotiable heart of the MDW process, the challenge. Find 3 customers in 48 hours who will give you actual money for your idea.
Why 48 hours? Why 3 customers?
The time limit is crucial. It forces radical focus and action, no time for procrastination. And why 3? Because the first customer might be luck, or your mom. The second could be a fluke. But the third customer, that's usually the hardest to get. If you can get 3 unrelated people to pay you, that indicates real market traction, not just sympathy buys. And the emphasis on money is absolute. Polite compliments, oh, that's interesting, totally worthless. Cash in hand or via Venmo is the only proof of real demand.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So how do you find these 3 paying customers fast? Method 1 is direct pre-selling.
Yeah, start with your Dream 10 list. These are people you know, likely from your zone of influence, friends, family, colleagues, people in those hobby groups you listed. Remember Dana, the student with the horse business idea? She didn't build an app. She just messaged friends she knew from horse riding groups on Facebook, asked them if they'd pay for a specific service she could offer. Within the first week, just by asking directly, she'd apparently made $1,000. 0 website, 0 app, just direct asks and providing value.
Okay, and there's a framework for structuring those sales conversations.
Yeah.
The 3-part framework.
Right. Keep it simple. First, listen. Don't just pitch. Ask open-ended questions. What's the most frustrating thing for you about X? Or how would having Y make your life easier? Really understand their pain. Second, present options. Give them a sense of control. Even if the options are just slight variations of your core offer, we could do it this way, or perhaps this way would suit you better. And third, the transition to the actual sale. Use that clear formula. Price plus benefit plus time. Be specific, like the jerky example. Okay, so for $180, I will personally deliver 6 months of awesome jerky right to your office starting this week. Sound good? Clear, concise, benefit-driven, time-bound.
Okay, listen, options, transition.
Yeah.
But what happens when they inevitably say no? Rejection's part of the game, right?
Absolutely crucial part. And this is where the process gets really valuable. A no isn't a dead end. The sources say every rejection is like finding treasure. You must immediately follow up with the 4-question script. Don't just walk away dejected.
Okay, I need to hear these 4 questions.
They're simple but powerful. 1, okay, thanks for the feedback. Can I ask why not? You need the real reason, the specific criticism. 2, got it. Hey, is there anyone else you know who might actually find this really useful? Always ask for a referral. 3, interesting, just curious, what would make this a total no-brainer for you? This helps you find missing features or value props. And 4, okay, and if it did have that, what do you think you'd realistically pay for something like that? This helps you understand price sensitivity and perceived value.
Wow. Okay, so you turn the rejection into like a mini market research session.
Exactly. You extract maximum value from every interaction, especially the no's. The author used this himself. He had this idea for a limited edition taco poster. He thought it was cool. It completely flopped. No one wanted it. But using the 4-question script, people kept saying, the poster, nah, but I really love that cheap taco shirt you made as a joke.
So the feedback on the failed product pointed him to the real winner.
Precisely. He listened to the no for the poster, heard the yes for the shirt and the feedback, and pivoted the entire thing instantly. Turned a failure into a profitable product based purely on listening to those rejection responses. Listen to what people will pay for, not just what you think is cool.
Okay, direct pre-selling is method 1. What's method 2 for validation? Marketplaces.
Yeah, this is even lower friction sometimes. Post a virtual product on a platform like Craigslist, eBay, maybe a super specific Facebook group or subreddit. You're not selling something you've already made. You're testing demand by advertising the promise of the product or service. See if anyone bites.
Like Neville Madhora renting out a camera he didn't even own yet.
Exactly that example. He put an ad on Craigslist. Camera for rent, $75 a day. He didn't have the camera. If someone had actually clicked and paid, then he would have gone out, bought or rented the camera himself, and fulfilled the order. 0 upfront cost, 0 inventory risk. Pure demand validation.
Clever. Okay, method 3 is the landing page, but they call it the last resort. Why?
Because it generally takes more time and potentially a little bit of money compared to just asking someone or posting a free ad. You might need a domain, a simple landing page builder subscription, maybe run tiny test ads. But if you go this route, the key is still minimalism. Don't build a whole website.
Like the kettle and fire bone broth example.
Perfect example. Justin Mayers wanted to validate subscriptions for high-end bone broth. Did he build a factory? No. He spent like $12 on a domain name, maybe $5 on a quick logo, set up a dead simple landing page explaining the offer, $29.99 a month subscription. Then he ran about $50 worth of super targeted Bing ads, cheaper than Google. In 2 weeks, he got about $500 in pre-orders. That was his validation. Only then did he go on to build a $100 million company with actual inventory and operations. The takeaway across all methods: use the absolute smallest, cheapest, fastest way you can think of to get someone to give you cash. Prove the market exists before you invest significant time or resources.
All right, so we validated. We have, say, 3 paying customers. We know the idea has legs. How do we actually grow this thing, turn that small experiment into a real sustainable business?
The sources make a really clear distinction here between 2 types of marketing channels, don't they? Social media is for growth.
And email is for profit. You got to understand the different roles they play. Social media, according to this framework, is primarily for building your audience, your tribe. Getting those initial 100 true fans, people who genuinely know, like, and trust you. And you build that audience mainly through generosity by consistently providing value up front. The author talks about raising $30,000 for Bo Jackson's charity in just 3 days, not by selling something, but by leveraging the goodwill and engagement of his existing small community. That shows the power of a connected audience.
Okay, but to attract that audience in the first place, you need to stand out. You need your unique angle, your special sauce. Exactly. What makes you different? Why should people listen to you specifically? The sources offer a simple framework to help define this. Ben Kenyon, the NBA's strength coach, is a good example. His angle isn't just fitness, it's helping anyone dominate their life using the specific mindset and discipline of elite athletes. That's unique. The framework basically asks 4 questions. 1, who are you, really? 2, why should people listen? What's your credibility or experience? 3, what are you genuinely passionate about? 4, and crucially, what specific value or transformation will you do for people?
Find your niche, your angle. Then what? The content circle framework.
Yeah, this is about focus, especially early on. Start narrow, then expand outwards, only when you've really established yourself in the core. Think of Ali Abdaal, the big productivity YouTuber. He didn't start out talking about everything. His core circle was super niche, helping UK medical students pass the BMAT exam. That's it. Once he owned that space, he expanded to the medium circle. More general productivity tips, study advice for university students. Still related, but broader. Only much later did he move to the large circle, talking about his personal finances, his income, reviewing Apple products, broad lifestyle stuff. The key lesson for you listening is, don't try to be everything to everyone right away. Start with the absolute most specific problem you can solve for a defined group and build from that core.
And the way you deliver that content matters too. Be the guide, not the guru.
Yes, this is about relatability. Don't position yourself as some infallible expert on a mountaintop. Instead, document your journey. Share your process, your wins, and definitely share your struggles and failures. The author points out that his own videos where he messes up or fails at something are often his most popular. Why? Because it makes him human. People connect with someone who's figuring things out alongside them, not just lecturing at them. That connection is way stronger. #tag email is for profit.
Okay, audience building on social.
Yeah.
But then comes the money part. Email is for profit. The sources seem almost religious about this.
They really emphasize it, and for good reason. They state that the #1 regret almost every successful entrepreneur voices is not starting their email list sooner, like day 1 sooner.
And there's solid data behind this.
Oh yeah. AppSumo, the author's company, apparently generates close to half of its $65 million annual revenue directly from its email list, nearly 50%. The fundamental difference is ownership. With email, you own that distribution channel. You have a direct line to your audience. You're not at the mercy of some social media algorithm changing overnight and wiping out your reach.
Like the Little Things example.
Exactly. Huge digital publisher, millions of followers on Facebook. Then Facebook tweaked its algorithm and bam, Little Things reportedly lost 75% of its website traffic almost instantly. Their entire business model crumbled because they were too reliant on a platform they didn't control. Email is the only channel where you truly own the relationship and the access. It's your insurance policy against platform risk.
And it's not just about sending emails, it's about how you send them. The famous boner email story.
Haha, yeah, that's a legendary one in marketing circles. Shows the power of personality. AppSumo had this really dry, boring email promoting some fonts. Standard corporate speak. It barely made any money. Then Neville Matora rewrote it. He injected humor, storytelling, real personality, used deliberately provocative, funny language like the line about getting a boner when whispering the word Garamond, and just made it entertaining. The result, the profit generated per email sent apparently jumped from like $100 to over $9,500 just by changing the tone and making it sound human.
Incredible. So the lesson is, don't be boring, be human, tell stories.
Absolutely. Your email should sound like they're coming from a real person, not some faceless corporation. So how do you set this up? You need your cash register, basically. A simple system, typically a landing page somewhere, could be super simple, designed to capture email addresses, often offering something valuable in return. That feeds people into an autoresponder sequence.
And the autoresponder sends emails automatically, right, when people are most interested.
Exactly. Right after they sign up, that's when they're most engaged, most excited about what you offer. So you hit them with a welcome sequence immediately. The sources suggest a basic, effective 3-part sequence to start. Email 1, a welcome email. Thank them, maybe briefly restate the value they'll get, and crucially, ask them a question to encourage a reply, like, what's the biggest challenge you're facing with X right now? Get them talking. Email 2, a connection email. Maybe share a bit more about yourself or your story. And ask them to connect on one social platform, bridges the gap, makes it more personal. Email 3, a content email. Send them your absolute best piece of free content, a guide, a video, a template, something genuinely valuable that showcases your expertise and builds trust immediately.
Welcome, connect, content. Simple. And to actually get people onto that list in the first place, you need lead magnets.
Yep. You need to give people a compelling reason to hand over their email address. A lead magnet is just a valuable piece of free content they get in exchange for subscribing. But it can't be fluff. It needs to be genuinely useful, something they might even consider paying for. Chris Von Wilpert's example is great. He spent like 40 hours writing this incredibly detailed analysis of HubSpot's marketing engine. Then, as the lead magnet, he offered a bonus spreadsheet listing all the specific growth hacks HubSpot used. Result: his email list apparently went from 0 to 1,000 subscribers in just 2 weeks because the magnet was super valuable and directly relevant to the audience he wanted to attract. #tag the growth machine, experiment-based marketing.
Okay, list is growing, emails are automated. Now we need to scale things up. Enter the growth machine, which seems to be all about experiment-based marketing. The author used this approach back at mint.com, right? Getting 1 million users in 6 months.
Yeah, that was one of his early big successes, and it wasn't one magic bullet. It was a series of small, highly targeted experiments. Things like sponsoring specific financial bloggers whose audiences were a perfect fit, systematically creating the absolute best content on personal finance topics people were searching for, constant testing and iteration.
So, to build your own growth machine, you need a repeatable process. The sources say every business needs to answer 5 essential marketing questions.
Right. These questions force you to think like an agile scientist, constantly experimenting. Question 1. What is your one main goal for this year? And it has to be specific and have a deadline. Not just grow, but reach 500,000 YouTube subscribers by December 31st. Laser focus. Question 2. Who exactly is your customer and where can you reliably find them, online or offline? Be precise. Question 3. Based on that, what is one marketing activity or channel that seems promising that you can commit to doubling down on for a set period? Focus your energy.
Okay, goal, customer, focus. What are the last 2?
Question 4 is about delighting early customers. How can you go above and beyond to truly delight your first 100 customers? This is about building that crucial word-of-mouth engine. Happy early customers become your best salespeople. And question 5 is a great thought experiment. If you absolutely had to double your business in the next 30 days, but you had 0 extra money to spend, what would you do? This forces radical creativity and ruthless prioritization. What high-leverage, low-cost actions could you take?
I like that last one. Forces you to cut the fluff. And we see this experiment-based approach with the Belay Shades founder, Daniel Bliss.
Perfect illustration. His goal was clear. Sell 166 pairs of these special glasses per month to hit his $4,000 profit target, his freedom number, essentially. So he didn't just guess what marketing would work. He set up 6 distinct experiments, reaching out to his personal network, trying wholesale, listing on eBay, running some ads, doing giveaways, etc. And crucially, he tracked the expected sales from each versus the actual results.
And the results were surprising.
Very. He thought wholesale might get him 50 sales. It actually delivered 217 sales, including a single massive $4,200 order from a major online retailer, Sierra Trading Post. Meanwhile, other channels he might have assumed would work, like eBay and Facebook ads in his case, generated exactly 0 sales. Complete duds.
So the data told him exactly where to focus.
Precisely. The golden rule of experimentation. Find what's working, wholesale in his case, and pour your resources into that. Find what's clearly not working, eBay, those specific ads, and cut it immediately. Kill it ruthlessly. Don't let your ego or assumptions override the actual data.
Makes sense. Let the results guide you. And the final piece for maintaining this growth momentum is the Law of 100. Sounds simple.
It is simple but powerful. It's basically the antidote to constantly chasing the next shiny object tactic. Whatever core marketing activity you've identified as working, maybe it's pitching potential customers, writing weekly newsletters, posting daily videos, commit to doing it 100 times, 100 pitches, 100 emails, 100 videos, before you even think about stopping or switching to something else.
So it's about consistency over chasing perfection or novelty.
Exactly. It forces you to push through the initial learning curve and the inevitable dips in motivation. There's this famous study from the University of Florida about photography students. One group was told they'd be graded purely on the quantity of photos they submitted, 100 photos minimum. The other group was told they'd be graded on the quality of a single perfect photo. Guess which group produced the higher quality photos in the end?
Let me guess. The quantity group.
You got it. Because by taking 100 photos, they were constantly experimenting, learning from mistakes, trying different angles, getting feedback, iterating. They learned and improved far more rapidly than the group agonizing over one single perfect shot. Quantity drives quality through practice and experimentation. #tag 52 chances this year. Designing your dream life.
Okay, so this whole blueprint helps you build a potentially very successful, profitable business. But the sources add a really important layer at the end, warning against the entrepreneurial freedom trap. The author shares his own story here, right? Hitting $4 million in revenue, but feeling
empty.
Yeah, he describes feeling lost and sad, which sounds crazy when you're making that kind of money. But he realized he was doing all the things he thought a successful CEO should be doing based on external expectations. He wasn't actually doing the things he personally wanted to do, the things that brought him joy or fulfillment.
So financial success isn't the whole picture.
Not at all. You can feel hollow if the life you build doesn't actually align with your deeper values and desires. The solution proposed is the Dream Year Checklist. This isn't just vague goals. You need to sit down and write out specific, detailed aspirations across different life categories. Maybe work, health, personal growth, travel. What would truly make this year feel exciting and fulfilling for you? Don't just write travel more, right? Spend 2 weeks exploring Patagonia, or finally get my pilot's license. Make it vivid and specific.
And once you have that checklist of what you really want, you need a system to make sure it actually happens, coloring your calendar.
Yep. This is about visually enforcing your priorities. Assign a specific color to each of your main life categories. Maybe blue for work tasks, green for health activities, gym, walks, purple for personal goals, learning guitar, date nights, yellow for travel planning or trips. Then, when you plan your week, you literally block out time for these things using their colors.
So you can see at a glance if your want is balanced or if it's just, say, all blue work blocks.
Exactly. It's instant visual feedback. Are you actually allocating time for the things you said were important on your Dream Year checklist? The system also recommends front-loading your priorities, schedule the important green, purple, yellow blocks early in the week before things get crazy, and then critically do a Sunday review, or preview really. Look back at the past week. Did you stick to your color-coded plan? Look ahead at the coming week. Have you intentionally scheduled time for your priorities? It builds accountability into your routine.
Okay, personal systems are key. But the sources also stress. Never entrepreneur alone. Build a VIP network.
Absolutely essential. Starting and growing a business can be lonely and incredibly challenging. You need support. First layer, find an accountability buddy. This needs to be a peer, someone also building something, who you trust to be honest, maybe even critical. You agree to send each other a detailed Sunday review email every single week. What were your goals? What did you achieve? Where did you fall short? What are your blockers? And your buddy's job isn't just to cheerlead, it's to call you out, ask tough questions, and hold you accountable to the goals you set.
Find someone who will push you. What else for the network?
The sources suggest actively targeting prefluencers. These are ambitious, interesting people who are clearly going places but haven't hit mainstream success yet. Think meeting Tim Ferriss or Ramit Sethi back when they were just starting their blogs. The strategy is to identify someone impressive who currently has relatively low attention or following. Then don't just ask for something, offer value first. A genuine compliment on their work, offer to help with a small task, make a useful introduction for them. Build the relationship before they blow up.
Proactive networking before they're famous. Makes sense? And there's a strategy for rapidly expanding that network too.
Yeah, using Andrew Chen's approach. Set a concrete networking goal, like Meet 5 new interesting people this week. Could be online or offline. Then, after every meeting or significant interaction, send a prompt follow-up email. Summarize key takeaways, outline any next steps you promised, and then here's the key. Specifically, ask for an introduction to 1 or 2 other people they know who you should meet. Based on our chat, who else comes to mind that would be great for me to connect with? You're basically creating a positive feedback loop for introductions, constantly seeding your next connections.
Yeah, okay, so the whole journey, start IT, build IT, grow IT, and then designing the life around it.
Okay.
It all comes down to systems, doesn't it?
It really does. Systems that force action, systems for validation, systems for growth, systems for accountability, systems for prioritizing your life. It's about removing the reliance on sheer willpower, which always fades, and replacing it with consistent processes and experiments. The whole MDW framework is designed so that every step is a measurable experiment pushing you forward.
So wrapping this all up, what's the core takeaway for someone listening right now who's maybe been dreaming about starting something for ages?
I think the biggest message is that the path to building a real, potentially high-revenue business isn't nearly as mystical or dependent on genius or massive funding as most people think. It's about a series of small, deliberate, fast actions. You overcome the fear by taking those tiny challenge steps, like the dollar challenge or the coffee challenge. You find out if your idea is any good, not by thinking, but by asking for money within 48 hours. You prove demand before you build anything significant. And then you grow it systematically, using email as your core profit engine and running constant small experiments to figure out what actually works, then doubling down on that.
So it really democratizes the starting point. You don't need permission. You don't need a huge bankroll. Don't wait for everything to be perfect.
Never wait for perfect. You likely have everything you need right now to run that very first tiny experiment.
It's fascinating when you think about it. If you really trace back the origins of almost every huge company we know today, Apple, Facebook, Google, Airbnb, they didn't spring forth fully formed. They all started with a leap, often an awkward one, and a tiny little experiment. So the final thought for you listening has to be this. What small, fast experiment are you avoiding right now? Maybe just because you're scared of hearing one trivial no. And what potentially huge, maybe even billion-dollar idea is hiding just on the other side of that single rejection? Think about that. And maybe go get your dollar.